Sebastian Vettel has been linked to a return back to the sport, and it looks like the German driver will explore the market a bit more carefully in the upcoming period now that tectonic shakeups are expected in the following couple of years. With 2025 not offering any seats, but 2026 set up to be new scenery for the majority of the drivers, where could Vettel find his home? And more importantly, can Cadillac be a factor in his return in F1? There is no question about it, the whole Formula One world wants to see Sebastian Vettel back, and while he had some statements that didn't make the fans happy, now that narrative seems to have shifted in a different direction. The last couple of years in his career weren't really what we wanted to see for a four-time world champion, but nevertheless the fate had different plans for us. Now we are facing a scenario in which we might see Vettel back because the German driver is reportedly tired of sitting on the sidelines and not participating in Formula One. Although the original brief was that Vettel is going to use his platform to make the world a better place to live, which he does right now as well. The latest report from F1 Insider reported that Vettel is interested in returning to the sport again after retirement in 2022. To back this up, there has been a report that Vettel did try to secure a seat throughout 2024 as well with Audi, but despite him being close with Andreas Seidel and Mattia Binotto, who succeeded Andreas, the belief in their souls wasn't that Vettel could be the leader of the German team. This would have been the perfect mission for the four-time world champion because if you think about it, his idol and compatriot Michael Schumacher did exactly the same thing with Mercedes after retiring in 2006 and coming back 4 years afterwards. Vettel has tremendous experience in driving all sorts of cars, and while he might not be as used to the modern F1 machinery, given the fact that he wasn't very successful in the first year of the ground effect era, that wasn't as much his fault as it was Aston Martin's. The team was unable to build a competitive car in the first season, and when they made a massive leap in 2023, the entire Formula One world was left with questions as to whether or not this could have been done with Vettel behind the wheel. That is something that we won't get an answer in the years to come, but what we can talk about and what we can debate is the future of Vettel in Formula One and the teams that might express interest in his services. Whenever a driver is rumoured to be returning out of retirement or coming from the sidelines, the first team that is going to be talked about is the newcomer Cadillac. They have 2 seats to offer, although the first one is most likely to go to an American driver, but the second one is likely to be given to a driver with tons of experience in the sport. Yes, Vettel in Cadillac might sound a little bit far-fetched, but when you think about it, he is the driver who could bring a lot of value to the American team that is looking to push through the grid as fast as possible. The competition will be fierce, and Cadillac will use Ferrari's engines and gearboxes in the first 2 seasons as participants in the sport, and Vettel is a driver who has tremendous knowledge in this area as he was part of Ferrari from 2014 to 2020. Of course, the shift towards electrification is something that he would need to get used to, but on the other hand, he's not as old as some people picture him to be in terms of making a comeback. The German driver is only 37 years old and is younger than both Alonso and Hamilton, who are still of course going at it with full speed. A big problem here would be the popularity in the endorsements though, and while we have no doubts that Cadillac will gather a massive fan base if they were to bring Vettel on board, the money that comes with Perez is by no means comparable to the ones of the 4-time world champion. It's a cruel world that we live in, and to compare these 2 drivers might be a silly thing to do because we do know for a fact who can adapt faster to a new machinery, plus the age difference isn't as massive as you might think, and it wouldn't be too big of a problem for the American team if it does come down to that. Mario Andretti, the former Formula One champion and the director of Cadillac, mentioned that he wants the second driver to be an experienced one, and they are looking into all of their options, including the retired drivers as well. This makes a lot of sense for Vettel because he can prove that he still has it in himself, and apart from that, he will be driving for a team that would produce their own engines from 2028 onwards. His input would be pivotal to the squad's development in many areas, but then again, Cadillac might want to pick a driver who has been in the sport more recently and hasn't taken such a long hiatus like Bottas. But a big advantage that Vettel might have here is the fact that Valtteri doesn't want to sign a contract in F1 just for the sake of it. So if Cadillac were to bring an experienced driver and they would want to have a 1+1 contract with the second year being optional, it's probably an offer that would be declined by the 10-time race winner, who was adamant that at this point of his career, contracts would have to have a meaning and they would need to be far more than 1 year. Of course, Vettel is yet to make his feelings clear on this matter, but if there are no other opportunities and he sees that Cadillac have great potential to keep the rising curve steady, then it's very likely that a common ground might be found between these two parties. Apart from the American team, there are other options who can be discussed for Vettel, and even though the denial from Audi was to be understood as a closed door for the German driver, it's not exactly as it seems. They have a very volatile lineup, a veteran in Hülkenberg who, although being massively good and a very experienced driver, is yet to score a podium in his career, and rookie in Bortoleto, who's coming out of an F2 winning campaign. It's a very interesting choice of drivers, and it's essentially what you would need as a rookie on the grid, but because the veteran isn't exactly a high achieving one and the rookie is yet to prove his worth on the F1 grid, Vettel could find a very good opportunity here, especially after the latest issues that have arisen with Audi. Mattia Binotto, the CEO of the team, has spoken about the problems that they're likely to face in their first season as engine manufacturers, and although it was believed that they were up to date with everything in terms of developing their engine, it doesn't really look that way from their latest statement. When talking about it, he said, "I think it's a learning process. We are competing with other organizations where manufacturers are settled down. Certainly all the experience is pretty important and valid. So while I think the organization at Audi is great, the facilities are great, the programs are going ahead, there is still a learning curve which needs to be done. So I'm expecting initially to have a gap to recover. How big will it be? I think you can never know that." But there have been an interesting development of events in the last couple of months that Vettel might well capitalize on, such as the appointing of Wheatley as the team principal of Audi. Wheatley and Vettel collaborated in Red Bull from 2009 to 2014, and it's a period in which they have created a very strong bond, which Wheatley can use as an argument to lobby to the greater parties in Audi in terms of reigniting the interest in the four-time world champion. Again, there are tons of different circumstances that could affect the future of Sebastian with Audi, but if you are to look at it from a neutral and original point of view, the venture with Audi does make a lot of sense. There are some other chances that could open up for the four-time world champion, such as a surprising move to any of the other big teams, or maybe a role in a smaller customer team. But if you are Sebastian, you would aim to return to a team that could fight for race wins and podium finishes. This was the primary reason why he felt he wasn't appreciated enough in Aston Martin, and one of the key factors that brought the retirement process a bit earlier than anticipated. Therefore, if Vettel is to make a comeback, it would definitely suggest that the team that managed to land his services is going to be a competitor sooner rather than later, which is exactly what we need in this sport. With all this in mind, do you think that Vettel will make a return to the sport sooner rather than later? And more importantly, which team do you think has the highest chance of securing the four-time world champion for a longer period of time? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in the major crisis that is currently ravaging Red Bull, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.